A concept that you will see in math very often is the concept of slope. So, slope is the measure of steepness of a line. So let's take a look at a line here. So here's my line, and if slope is the measure of the steepness of the line, to find what the actual slope is, you need to find the vertical change over the horizontal change. So, slope is the vertical change over the horizontal change, then that means you can calculate the slope of a line by checking how much we rise. The vertical change is how much we rise, and the horizontal change is how much we run. That's horizontal change. So the slope would be often considered the rise over the run. Alright, so in this case, we're rising 2 and running 3. So this slope here would be rise 2, run 3. 2/3 is the slope. Now there is a formula for slope that you will see and use quite often. Oops, okay, so we've got here your slope. The letter that represents slope is M. M is equal to the rise, which is the change in y. So you'll start at y2 minus y1 if you're given a point, over the change in x, x2 minus x1. This is the rise on top and the run on the bottom. Now it is okay for your slope to be negative. If your slope is negative, then instead of from left to right it's increasing, from left to right your line will be decreasing. So let's try and apply this formula to some points. Alright, so let's find the slope between the points 3, 2, and 4, 7. So, for now, let's just look at this. I wouldn't normally graph the points when I'm trying to find the slope, but so we can visually see it. I did not go up enough. That's okay. We have 3, 2 is 1 point, and 4, 7. So let's see, 5, 6, 7. That's up there. And we have this line. You can kind of see the rise and the run there, and you could calculate it using the graph, but it's much more beneficial to us, especially if your points include fractions or decimals, to use the formula. So our formula here, remember, is the change in y. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, where x1, y1, and x2, y2 are each of the points of the equation. So we have here x1, y1 at the top. It does not want to write that point. Okay. x2 and y2 is that point. So we just plug these in. And it doesn't matter which point is x1, y1, and x2, y2, as long as you're consistently putting in the y2 and x2 first. So I have here my slope will be equal to y2, 7, minus y1, which is 2, over x2, which is 4, x1, which is 3. Oh, I made a very big mistake graphing. I went one too many points up. Whoops. So that should be my line. So we'll correct that. 5 over 1 ends up being my slope when I'm graphing, and my slope when I am writing the equation out. So your slope is 5. Sorry for that little mistake there. Let's look at how we would actually use slope to graph. Let's take a look at the slope-intercept form of a line. You may have seen this before, but if you have an equation of a line, it can be written in this form: y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. That means where it crosses the y-axis. So what you can do is, if you have this equation of the form and you understand what slope means, rise over run, then you can graph a line really fast using the slope. So let's say I have this equation here. Y equals 3x plus 1. Well, we know our slope is 3 because it's the value that's on x. We know the y-intercept here is 1. So let's take a look at what the graph would look like. Oh, that was really bad, but that's okay. So my y-intercept would be 1. That would be my starting point. And then from that starting point, you just do the rise over run of the slope. So my slope here, it's rising 3, then we are running 1. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 up, 1, 2, 3 up, rise 1. This time I'll make sure I put my point in the right spot, right there. And you can do that one more time. It goes up. Or you can even go left 1, down 3. And then you have your line here. You've graphed your line really fast using your slope and your y-intercept. Let's look at one more equation, or one more example that uses that. So let's say I have y equals negative 2/5 x plus 5. So here, my y-intercept is 5. And then we have here, this one right here, negative 2/5 is the slope. So we're going to rise negative 2, run 5. What does rise negative 2 mean? Think about that for a second. So it means going or rising a negative amount, which means going down. So when you do have a negative slope, your rise does need to be negative. Or you can make your rise positive and your run needs to be negative, one or the other. Alright, so let's start with our y-intercept first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then from my y-intercept, I'm going to rise negative 2, run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rise negative 2 again, so go down 2, run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from there, assuming I can draw a straight line on this, we have the equation of our line graphed right there.